Hello my friends and welcome to the channel. Today I would like to respond to so many questions I receive every day in the comment section of my videos. Many of you guys ask me, can Canada be totally independent from the US? Is it reality? Or is it just political spin? Well, today my friends, I'm pulling back the curtain for you and break down what this relationship actually means for you, for me, for every Canadian, from coast to coast to coast. Here's the four-part reality check we are driving into. First, the hard truth. A total economic independence from the US, a pipe dream. Second, the hidden leverage. Here is where it gets interesting. While everyone focuses on how much we need the US, they completely miss how much they need us. The US economy literally can function without Canadian resources, no matter what MAGA and Maple MAGAs are saying. Third, the strategic pivot. Canada isn't sitting back. Prime Minister Carney's middle power campaign is absolutely building real options without cutting ties completely. Think of it as buying an insurance, not moving out. And fourth, the 10 to 15 year timeline. This is where the confusion ends. There's a massive difference between being economically independent and being strategically autonomous. One is impossible, the other one is absolutely achievable. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Everyone telling you Canada can just break up with the US economy is absolute as honest as the orange fascist gangster in Washington. Why? Because geography wins, plain and simple. We share an 8,891 kilometer border with the world's biggest economy. Over 80% of us live within 100 kilometers of that border. I can see the border from my backyard. Do I want it? Our pipelines, railways and electricity grid are physically hardwired together. Moving goods next door is much cheaper than shipping them across the ocean. Think about this. Canada exports roughly $600 billion in goods and services to the US every single year. That's not a number you just replace with a few trade deals in Europe or Asia. No other democratic market possesses the wealth, proximity and consumer demand to absorb that volume overnight. The Fraser Institute calls it fighting gravity. And they are bang on. The reality is simple. Canada will always trade with the US. We share a mortgage, folks. We can't afford to move out. But we also can't afford to allow our roommate to control what we do. Now here's where we flip the narrative. Because having some dependency is not the same as being helpless. There's a massive difference. And the truth is, the US economy cannot function without Canada. We are not just a passive seller. We are the vital foundation for American industrial security. Oh, I can hear MAGA already screaming. Let me give you and MAGA the facts. Canada is the largest supplier for foreign crude oil to the US, more than all OPEC nations combined. Get this. American refineries in the Midwest and Gulf Coast are physically configured to process our heavy crude. They can't just shut those things off, causing a domestic energy crisis. Period. The US need Canadian oil and gas. The US tech and defense sectors are desperately to break their reliance on Chinese monopolies. But where can they turn to? Or should I say, have to? Well, Canada holds some of the world's most accessible reserves on lithium, nickel and cobalt. You know, that stuff that gets into military hardware and electric vehicle batteries. The US defense industrial base cannot afford to depend on competitors. The US need Canadian critical minerals. Here's something Washington forgets. Economic shockwaves travel both ways. When the US hits us with tariffs, it drives cost up for American consumers and widens their own trade deficit. It's like they're punching themselves in the face and wondering why their nose bleeds. The US needs peace with Canada. So no, we are not victims. We are indispensable partners. But it does not mean that we have to pretend we are best friends. Because Trump's America made it crystal clear. We are not. So, if we can't leave, what's the plan? It's called strategic autonomy. And it's brilliant. Prime Minister Mark Carney's middle power campaign isn't about isolation. It's about building enough structural cushions so that when Washington throws the ketchup bottle, it's annoying, but does not leave a black eye. Here's how we're going to do this. The push to dismantle our interprovincial trade barriers is a game changer. Right now, internal trade barriers are the equivalent to 7 to 9% tariff on goods moving between provinces. Think about that. We are inflicting more damage on ourselves than even the orange idiot does. Eliminating them could boost our GDP by up to 7%. That's 210 billion in economic activities. By creating a frictionless domestic market, we give local entrepreneurs a place to do business and ignore cross-border tension. This one is certainly Canada's biggest asset. Canada is actively working with partners like Japan, Australia, India and the EU to build collective counter-pressure tools. If middle power nations band together to secure supply chains, we gain the leverage needed to negotiate better terms with the big players. Even during intense trade disputes, frameworks like CUSMA shield roughly 85% of our exports from blanket tariffs. That's not nothing, that's a safety net. Okay, so this is where it gets confusing. And I'm going to clear it up for you right now. When you hear that Canada can achieve independence in 15 years, that's referring to strategic autonomy, not total economic independence. And strategic autonomy is all we really need. Because knowing your level of dependence and your level of true leverage gives you autonomy. I know it's confusing, but hear me out. When economists say Canadian independence is impossible, they're talking about macroeconomic decoupling. Strategic autonomy and macroeconomic decoupling are two completely different things. So, where does the 10 to 15 year timeline to achieve strategic autonomy comes from? First, the CUSMA deadline. Washington just refused to renew the agreement. There won't be an annual review until exactly 10 years from now. The government's goal is to dramatically shift Canada's trade mix before that clock runs out. Second, the Maple pivot. Our plan to build alternative global trade corridors, green energy grids and critical mineral supply chains for Europe and Asia are modeled on a 10 to 15 year capital investment cycle. Here's the trade-off. Public polling showed that roughly 70% of Canadians are willing to accept slower domestic economic growth if it means buying greater independence from Washington. That's the conversation we have to have as a country. We can't fully break up, but we can absolutely build a relationship where we negotiate as partners, and in parts, even on our own terms, not as dependents. So, let me leave you with this. Canada and the US are like roommates who share a mortgage. Moving out would be a big inconvenience for us. But we've spent the last few years making darn sure that we have our own bank account, our own car, and our own job. So when the other roommate throws a tantrum, we don't panic. The goal isn't isolation, it's insurance and control. If you take the control away from a volatile, unreliable, and extortionist trading partner, you have effectively decoupled, because he does not have total control over you anymore. Total independence is a fantasy. Strategic autonomy is the reality we are building. And here's my question for you. Are you willing to accept slower economic growth today for much more independence from Washington tomorrow? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you really think. And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Because understanding the truth about Canada's place in the world, that's how we take control of our future. Elbows up, Canada. Thanks for watching. I'm Wilfried Lemkuller with Europe Curious, where we don't just repeat the daily headlines, but open the curtain so you can see for yourself what's really behind it. See you in the next one.